food I like best at parties is really casual and easy. Easy on the cook because so much can be made in advance, and easy on the guests because it's also cosy and welcoming. Now, I got a crowd of people coming for dinner, and what I'm making looks like a feast, feels like a feast, is a feast, but none of it is going to stress me out, so we'll all have a fabulous time, including me, thank you. For an effortless starter, everyone's favourite, prawn cocktail in baby lettuce leaves, then a magnificent spicy beef chilli with a golden cornbread topping. I'll serve it with cool green guacamole and all the bits and pieces everyone loves. And for dessert, a majestic chocolate cherry trifle, easy to make, utterly delicious, and a really grand finale. I never like fussy or finicky food and fancy stuff, so even when I've got friends coming round, I want something kind of welcoming and cosy and informal. And as far as I'm concerned, there is no more welcoming sight at a party than a vatful of cornbread topped chilli. Okay, to start off, 4 onions, chopped, and 2 bell peppers. Oh, juicy and red and sweet. I mean, what makes this really lovely too is that you can do everything in advance. Bit of garlic, just 2 cloves. Mince it in. Quick stir. I want these onions to soften, not brown. We're just going to leave these on a lowish heat while I go and get my spices, because, you know, for a chilli, you need all that kind of aromatic warmth, and that can only be found in my store cupboard. So let's go into my Aladdin's cave. Open sesame. Oh, and while I'm here, you know, I wanted to show you a few of my little treasures, because you know how most people, when they go abroad, they go to art galleries and they bring back lovely souvenirs, and I go to supermarkets and little stores and bring back food. When I last went to Italy, I got this special broth, this holiday broth, which is really lovely when, you know, I can never be bothered to make my own stock. Now, where's that thing I got in Sweden? Yep, this cloudberry jelly. Cloudberries are, well, as exquisite as their name suggests. This sort of poetic soft fruit, like a yellow, fatter raspberry. This is lovely stuff. But I don't want my chilli to spoil, so let's get the spices and get going. The onions and peppers are beautifully softened. But I'm going to have to muddy all that up in a minute with the spices, but only muddy visually, because what the spices are going to do are kind of make this come alive even more. Now, chilli for my chilli. These are hot red pepper flakes, lovely and hot, about 2 teaspoons, but obviously this is to taste. I just like a lot of heat. And 2 of ground coriander, and 2 teaspoons as well of cumin. Some whole cardamom pods, which I'm going to crush. Now, if you haven't got whole cardamom pods, I'd say use about 1/4 teaspoon of ground cardamom. I like to crush mine just by using the force of the jar they come in, just so that the little black seeds can smoke their lovely musky breath into this mix. Now, this great sort of tangle of spices and onions, I mean, it's not just the flavour base, but it's the kind of the power base of the chilli. Now, the meat. Got to be strong for this. 3 pounds of ground or minced beef. This is organic. I always feel more comfortable having organic meat. And it's one big mother here. Now, a wooden fork is really the best way to turn the meat in the pan, because you don't want to crush it too much, which does make it a bit dry and patty-like. Just think of kind of coaxing it, cajoling it. That's fine, that's all you need. Some tomato puree or paste, quite a lot here, about 1/2 cup. Just, there we are. A lot of red goo here. And some tomato ketchup, about the same amount, but I'm not going to measure up, it's going to squirt from the bottle. And can I apologise in advance, should any sounds be emitted. Seal it, always better be safe than sorry. Stir that in. See, it's all getting nice and healthy looking now. And our third tomato element, some canned tomatoes. These are chopped. 4 cans, about 7 cups of tomatoes. And it says on these cans that these are tomatoes specially grown in the Puglia region of Italy, which is making me feel full of warmth. Some red kidney beans, about 2 cans, about 3.5 cups or so. Look at them, oh, beautiful and glowing. And some cocoa. Now, it may sound odd to be putting what is in effect chocolate into this chilli, but you know, cocoa isn't sweet, and if anything, it's really like another spice or another form of chilli because it gives heat. About a cupful of water. Stir all that together. See, look, this hasn't even cooked yet and looks good. But then maybe it's like, you know, all children looking beautiful to their mothers. But don't disillusion me. Right, so this has just come to a bubble. I'm going to turn it down, just partially cover it. And this just needs to simmer for about an hour and a half. And then when it's cool, I'm going to stash it in the fridge. Tomorrow I just need to take it out, spoon over a bit of cornbread topping, in the oven. The party's started. I'm all for making my life, and yours for that matter, easier. And what makes my life easier when I've got a crowd coming for supper is to buy something. I then fiddle about with it and make it into something even better. I mean, I am more than happy to buy a couple of chocolate cakes for a trifle. Once they're covered with liqueur and fruits, no one will tell the difference. And although when I make a trifle I am happy to buy the cake, I do like to make the custard. And right now I fancy a chocolate custard, which is why I'm getting cocoa. I can't help thinking that whatever the question is, trifle is always the answer. And this one has a real edge because at its base and heart is chocolate. I kind of base this trifle on that old favourite, the Black Forest Gatto, you know, which is just dark chocolate and cherries. But the Black Forest Gatto is incredibly hard to make, and this is ludicrously easy, not least because you're only cooking one thing, which is a chocolate custard. Just chopping up this dark chocolate. I've got about 4 ounces of bittersweet chocolate, just over 100 grams of good dark chocolate. Just see it being shattered into shards and smithereens. Now I'm going to muster every bit of restraint in my being, though you can imagine how much that is, because all of this chocolate needs to go in my bowl over a pan of simmering water so that it will melt and then can be just poured into my custard later. So I better get on with the custard. Got a cup and a third of heavy cream. It's about 350 mils of double cream. That sounds promising to start with, doesn't it? And the same amount, a cup and a third, about 350 mils of full fat milk. I mean, you didn't think I was going to say skim, did you? I've got 6 yolks here. I need another 2. So I've got 8 in all, but it's using all these yolks and no whites that makes the custard so satiny. It takes long to thicken, but it's worth it because the texture is so gorgeous and smooth. And into these lovely golden yolks, I'm going to add just over half a cup, it's about 125 grams of sugar, and a third of a cup, that's about 40 grams of lovely dark cocoa. It's a lot there, and that gives it real depth because cocoa is strong. And mix this together. Don't be alarmed about lumps, they will disappear later. Right, I'm ready to pour my lovely warm cream and milk mixture. over this cocoa and yolk mixture. And now this gorgeous chocolate has all but melted. One stir should do it. And this has to be poured into the custard. Don't say you wouldn't. Now at this stage the custard looks like hot milkshake, and nothing wrong in that, I can tell you. But as I heat it and stir, it will thicken and I will have the custard layer for my gorgeous chocolate cherry trifle. Now this needs to be stirred for about 10 minutes or so, gently but insistently. Don't take your eyes off it. There's a very easy way to see when custard's ready. If you just draw a line through the back of the wooden spoon, the line stays there. The two bits of custard don't ooze into each other. Just pour it back into a bowl. And the custard will thicken further as it cools. And in order to prevent it getting a skin at the same time, the easiest way is to get a bit of cling and just put it as if, in fact, a second skin on this now, and that's what will do the trick, and you won't lose a lot as you peel it off. And now I'm just going to make some sandwiches out of some black cherry jam. So cut your chocolate cake. It's a little walk in the Black Forest here. Just dollop on the jam and spread about generous half cupful of jam, I'd say, but go by eye. Now you'll see there's not a great uniformity of size in these sandwiches. Don't let it bother you. They'll all fuse and melt into one glorious base later. And now some cherry brandy, and this is real dark red cherry brandy, about half a cupful, 125 millilitres, but just soak the sponge with it. And I just need this jarful of sour cherries. If you don't want to use alcohol for whatever reason, you can use this lovely red syrup that the cherries have been steeped in. Look at these babies. In they go on top. That colour. Now, it's not a bad move to try and push a few to the outside, because that's what you'll see as you layer up with the custard. There we are. Away with that, and on with this. So this needs to go in the fridge now for a few hours, although you could do it a day ahead if that made your life easier. And then I'm going to whip some cream lightly so it's still soft, and then decorate with some shards of dark chocolate. That's it. This takes me back to my college days. The thing is, my fridge is so stuffed to bursting with food, and who wants a warm beer, that the bath has to be my wine cooler. What a sight to lift the heart, and I love this. One of the things I love about this trifle is these gorgeous stripes of colour, the deep, dark, dark brown of the cake underneath, and then those little bits of pink cherry poking through, and on top, that sort of hazelnutty colour of the cocoa chocolate custard. But I am going to swamp all this chocolate brown with white now, and that white, in fact, is cream. I've got about 3 cups, 750 mils here, and the strange thing is, and I know it sounds mad, but actually adding cream makes this less rich rather than more rich. I suppose it's really all to do with the contrast, because of course you've got what is in a sense chocolate pudding sitting on top of a liqueur-sodden cake, and then on top you want something light and foamy, like a kiss on the tongue, and I suppose that's why it's so important not to over-whip the cream. It mustn't be stiff. It has to be, I suppose, light, like a cloud, celestial. Now that is perfect. It's really important not to over whip the cream. It has to stay light and floaty. And I'm now just going to get this light floatiness and swathe the top of my trifle with it. Then after that, I'm going to grate over some dark chocolate so that it's flecked and luscious. I've got such a huge pan of chilli that I think it's best to heat it up on the stove before putting it in the oven. Now there's nothing wrong in the chilli as it is. I mean, it's just glorious. But I think having a cornbread topping on it makes it a little more special for a party. And, you know, it's incredibly easy to make. So I've got about 3 cups of buttermilk. Into this, 4 eggs. They'll work with the cornmeal to create such a fabulous sort of good mood gold. And some oil, just vegetable oil, about 1/4 cup or 4 tablespoons, just to keep it a bit moist because I don't want this too dry. Some honey, about 2 teaspoons. Use this spoon actually because it'll slither off more easily where the oil's been. And just need to whisk away with a fork. I've got a jug full of wet ingredients. I just need my dry. And look at this, really golden, and it'll keep this golden colour as it bakes. I've got 4 cups of cornmeal here. I want 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. And it gives an echo to the heat in the chilli. A small amount of flour, about 1/4 cup, 4 tablespoons, about 2 tablespoons of baking powder. Need a bit of help to give the cornbread air, and about 1.5 teaspoons of salt. And now my jug of wet ingredients goes into this bowl. Just stir together. And this is perfect dolloping texture now, and you have no idea when you eat this, there's something so fantastic about the contrast between this brick brown chilli, full of heat, and this sweet, almost sort of cinnamon scented golden cornbread. And now for a final bit of embellishment. This is strong cheddar, really strong cheddar, the sort of cheddar that can burn the roof of your mouth. I love it like that. And this adds another dimension. We've got the heat, we've got the sweetness, and now we've got real vociferous tang. About 2 cups here, 150 grams. Now this needs to go into about 425 Fahrenheit oven and about 220 centigrade for about half an hour, by which time this lovely chilli will be bubbling hot all the way through, and the cornbread will have risen and puffed, and the cheese will have formed a blistered carapace on top. Bingo! When I was a child, I thought prawn cocktail was the height of sophistication. Others claim they've moved on. I never will. Tumble out my lovely pink prawns. They get too fussy about them. You know, some people get very, I don't know, born again, let's make this hip, and it's all tiger prawns and like that. I don't think it has to be. I really say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And this is the quintessential prawn cocktail. Now, my prawn cocktail sauce, you know, it's not groundbreaking, but it is good. And the important thing with cooking, not that this is exactly cooking, is that food tastes wonderful. You should never strive to be original. Okay, so I'm starting off with a good load, about 3/4 cup, 200 grams of mayo, although I have a great love of salad cream here too. Either will do. And in with that, some tomato ketchup. That's to bring out the blushing colour of the prawns. About 3 tablespoons, but it's not really worth counting. The idea is just to make it, taste, and see where you stand. some lemon. You need some sharpness here. I'm going to go carefully here, but that's about right. Good squirt. A quick stir. Ah, how I love this creamy coral. And you do need heat, I think. A bit of Tabasco. More than a bit, but I like a lot of heat. Moment of truth. A bit more lemon. The heat hits you just a bit afterwards, which is the way it should be. Okay, so here we go, my babies. Now when I serve these, instead of putting them in long glasses, I'm going to put them in these little lettuce boats, I suppose, lettuce wraps, whatever you want to call them. What could be better? Just a spoonful in the spiny whiter bit of each lettuce leaf should do it. I love the combination of the bright, bright green and that pale, blushing pink. This is a very good morsel, I can tell you. Now the final touch shows that although you can take the girl out of the 80s, you can never quite take the 80s out of the girl. Pink peppercorns. These are rather lovely, bright red, and really smell them. Now, don't worry if you haven't got these, you can use paprika, but I like to put some in a pestle and mortar and bash them, and then just sprinkle each little lettuce leaf and its little plumptious prawns. Lovely. This is such a great way of starting a party. I don't have a huge collection of tablecloths. I much prefer to go to a shop and buy a yard or two of different fabrics. It gives me a lot of choice and it's more fun. I like entertaining to be really informal, so I just put canisters of cutlery on the table. Everyone helps themselves and it makes the atmosphere so much more fluid. The trouble with having a vase of flowers is that they cut into everyone's eye line, ruin the conversation. I think that ruins a dinner party atmosphere, so I prefer fruit. I mean, it's as beautiful as flowers, and the thing is, more practical, cheaper, and I'm going to use these limes when we eat. I know some people are horrified at the idea of paper napkins, but I've got a confession to make. If I had to wash and iron every time someone came to dinner, I don't think I'd ever invite anyone. One of the things I love about communal eating is having a vast panoply of accompaniments. For example, some very strong grated cheddar, some smooth palate-soothing sour cream, tortilla chips, of course a must, and for me has to be my modified guacamole. And I change guacamole in a number of ways. Always, I remove the tomato. Cannot have tomato blurring the beautiful green pureness of my guacamole. And for this guacamole, I've also got rid of the chilli, because after all, the chilli's already got the lead part. It doesn't need to have a little walk on now. But I have to start off with limes. I need the strong, vociferous bite of the lime in my guacamole here. I find if you roll the lime in your hands first, it helps all the juices run out, and limes can be slightly difficult and sometimes rather disappointingly dry. The moment of truth. I'm going to impale my lime with this black instrument. Gorgeously juicy, and I like the way that with a reamer you can get some of the pulp out as well, which will add further lime intensity. So a bit of salt, and the best thing is to put the salt in now so that it can melt into the acid of the juice. I've got a couple of scallions, about 2 spring onions here, finely chopped, and of course the avocados. Right. Beautiful. Just mish them out any old how, because you want them to be mashed, so you're not trying to get them out in one piece or anything. There we are. I love that buttery pale jade colour of the avocado flesh. Feels so right and so smooth against that nubbly cornbread top chilli. I'm going to tumble these gorgeous greens together. So restful somehow, this amount of green. But now I'm going to rupture this mood of calm by massacring the avocados with my masher. Disturbingly satisfying. Just the final touch, a small amount, enough to give pungency, of cilantro, coriander, just chopped up. Chop it finely because we're going to sprinkle it on the guacamole later, and you don't want it to interfere with the salving clay smoothness of the avocado. Great. Now the guacamole is ready to join brothers on the board. Oh, and one final touch, I think this is important, although obviously not crucial. I think a small, earthy dusting of paprika to the sour cream. It's volcanic. Enjoy, my lovelies. Help yourselves.
Thank you. Very good.
Here, put this in here. I'm going to give you that. Very good. That's my idea of a small portion. I'm trying.
I went a little galump through the Black Forest.